Solitano Jr. has been bipolar for most of his life, but he has never been diagnosed. His diagnosis comes with the fact that Pat Jr. was institutionalized due to him beating up his wife Nikki's lover. Unfortunately, Nikki has since left him and has received a restraining order against him. It was then and there, in this mental institution, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Although he is on medication, which he usually doesn't take because of the way it makes him feel, and he has mandatory therapy sessions, Pat Jr. feels like he can manage living on the outside solely by living healthy and looking for silver linings in his life. Against medical advice and without the knowledge of her husband, Pat Solitano Sr., caring mother of Pat Jr., Dolores Solitano, discharges her adult son, Pat Jr., from a Maryland mental health institution after his minimum 8-month court-ordered stint. His mother, Dolores, urges him to take his meds, but Pat claims they make him dull and lifeless. But without his meds, Pat Jr. can't quite keep it together. And when he wakes his parents in the middle of the night to aggressively bother them about Hemingway's failure to give a happy ending to his novel A Farewell to Arms, his parents have had enough and orders him to take his meds if he wishes to stay in their house. When Pat Jr.'s best friend Ronnie invites him over for dinner, Pat Jr. is wary of going because Ronnie's wife, Veronica, is still friends with Nikki. But then again, it may be Pat's perfect opportunity to prove how stable he has become. At least that's what he hopes. Until he meets Veronica's sister, Tiffany, a young widow who describes herself as a crazy slut with a dead husband. Over dinner, Pat and Tiffany hilariously face off about which meds they have taken, which ones were awful, and the burden of depression. They connect. Eventually, Tiffany propositions Pat Jr. to take their relationship to the next level, but he turns her down because, after all, he is still married and does not want to make any mistakes that would keep Nikki from wanting him back. It was then that Tiffany offers to help Pat reunite with Nikki, only if he'll enter a Dancing with the Stars type contest with him. He agrees and gives Tiffany a letter to give to Nikki. It is in clear defiance of the restraining order that Nikki has against Pat Jr. The dance competition day had arrived, and one guest in the audience made Tiffany extremely upset, and that was Nikki. After all, Tiffany was obsessed and in love with Pat Jr. herself, but Pat Jr. didn't know that he was also in love with Tiffany yet. It was then that Tiffany saw Pat Jr. talking to Nikki, and she got jealous and tried to run out. Well, Pat Jr. stopped her, and then it was there that they began their relationship, and the movie ended with a fairy tale ending. Unfortunately, the exact cause of bipolar disorder is still unknown, but several factors may be involved, such as, first, biological differences. People with bipolar disorder appear to have physical changes in their brains. The significance of these changes is still uncertain, but may eventually help pinpoint causes. The second cause may be genetics. Bipolar disorder is more common in people who have a first-degree relative, such as a sibling or parent who has been diagnosed with the condition. Researchers are trying to find genes that may be involved in causing bipolar disorder. Ultimately, bipolar disorder is diagnosed when a patient exhibits both sides of the spectrum, a manic state where they can't control themselves, or a depressive state where they find it hard to get out of bed every day. Neuroscientists at the University of California at Los Angeles have been using high-resolution 3D images of the brain and questionnaires evaluating temperament and personality traits of individuals diagnosed with bipolar disorder compared to their non-bipolar relatives. These two tests have certainly paid off. Researchers were able to discover a particularly interesting fact, and that's the thickness of the gray matter in the brain's temporal and prefrontal regions were different among the two being compared. It was then suggested that these two structures are critical for language and for higher order cognitive functions, like self-control and problem-solving. Two factors that those who are diagnosed with bipolar disorder tend to lack. Unfortunately, a multitude of psychological effects come with the diagnosis or lead to the diagnosis of bipolar disorder. First off, one who suffers with bipolar disorder may have an overall depressed mood, such as feeling sad, empty, hopeless, or tearful. In children and teens, a depressed mood can appear as irritability. There also may be a marked loss of interest or a feeling of no pleasure in or almost all activities. Next, a sufferer may experience insomnia, or they may sleep way too much. Also, feelings of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt may come over those who are suffering from bipolar disorder. But they may also experience a decreased ability to think or concentrate, and then leading to indecisiveness, whether in school or at work. But unfortunately, the worst is thinking about planning or attempting suicide. Many of Pat Solitano Jr.'s symptoms were portrayed well in the movie, specifically his violence during his manic state towards the man he caught with his wife, also his inability to be able to control some of the things he says in the movie, whether it's talking about his medication or always interrupting people. This seems to get in his way, and he has trouble controlling his overall behavior.
I'm not yelling, Mom. I'm just frustrated because I should have my wedding videos. I looked over there. I already looked all over there. I'm not here. I'm not calming down. I don't give a who here. I'm not calming down. Anybody can wake up. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of it. Let the whole neighborhood wake up. I don't care.
Stop it! Stop it!
No, Mom.
What's going on?
Come on down!
What?
Hey, it's my wedding! It's my wedding video! Oh, I can't watch a video now!
I believe Bradley Cooper, who portrayed Pat Solitano Jr. in the movie Silver Linings Playbook, did an okay job in portraying the actual effects of bipolar disorder. Within the film, the manic side of bipolar disorder was very well portrayed, but unfortunately the actor did miss a note while not portraying the depressive side of bipolar disorder. Oftentimes his character was more upbeat and violent than he would ever be sad, which is a key portion of the disorder.